I've grown up in the Hudson Valley, and I enjoy all things mysterious and strange, and if it can be in the woods, all the much better. And so I've spent many years and many miles going through this area. And my particular interest in stone sites, since I used to teach astronomy and I was an amateur astronomer when I was a little kid, is astronomical alignments of these sites. And I think for those people who think every stone site is a colonial farmer clearing his field or making a root cellar, I think if you can determine astronomical alignments, that kind of sticks a pin in it, because it takes a lot of work and a lot of years, because we have weather like this. It reminded me of my last time to the King's Chamber, when we had to sit in the chamber for an hour and a half to let the thunderstorm go by. So I will jump right in. So this is my guide. This is a grid that I use as a quick and dirty template. I'm thinking of having it put on the back of my hand. It would be a lot easier when I'm on a site. And I have spoken to so many educated people who have no clue that summer solstice sunrise, and you turn around, you will see winter solstice sunset, that we really lost touch with the natural rhythms. And so when you try to reconnect, things look a lot different when you understand what was important to people before us. They needed to be able to tell the time, the season, when to plant, when to get ready for winter. So this is something I will superimpose on a map or something, just to get an idea, so I have some clue as to where to look. Where I couldn't put that was over this map I got from the state. Is anybody here from the state of New York before I insult them? Oh. Well, in 2000, there was an article in our local newspaper. I'm over in Orange County. And it said that they were doing a survey, a sonar survey of the entire Hudson River, looking for dead oyster beds, looking for shipwrecks, which there were hundreds. And in this article, it said the team was stunned when they found two parallel stone walls about 900 feet long. And the article added that the last time the water in the river was low enough that these could be constructed was 3,000 years ago. So at a minimum, they're 3,000-year-old walls. Period, end of paragraph, move along. I'm like, wait a minute, this, that was the end of it. So I actually tracked down some of the scientists, and one of them said, oh yeah, we were told to keep it all hush hush, and I'm not supposed to tell you that it's in Newburgh Bay. Oh. So I was like, I didn't hear it. So who was building parallel stone walls? It took a lot of effort to get these pictures from the state. Well, what do you want for? I mean, I felt like a criminal, and they're like, there's shipwrecks down there. Am I asking for shipwrecks? I'm asking for well, who told you they were walls? I said, 3 of the scientists on the project. So this is all I got, but at least I got these. And I know there have been some people who swear they're going to take, they're going to dive these walls. I've yet to hear, but I think, don't you all think if we have 3,000-year-old plus walls in the Hudson River, we might want to do a little archaeology on them? All right, Indian Hill in Monroe, New York. That's over in Orange County. This is a spectacular site. Have any of you been to Indian Hill? Okay, good, good. Uh, this area had been mapped by a local historian, Cliff Patrick, and there are some small stone walls and some old homesteading areas, but there's also massive walls like what I'm standing on. And this one on the left there, it just goes to the top of a hill and stops. And at some point, the walls are 24 feet wide. There was a bit of a problem. There's a lot of hunting going on at this site and not always in season. Notice I was wearing my bright yellow jacket, which I always do. And, you know, the things we do for research. One day while the hunters were out, my husband's like kind of behind a tree and I'm trying to take measurements and it's like bam, bam. And, you know, I peek my head up 24 feet, you know, bam, bam, and realize it's just not worth your life with so many hunters there. So just be careful. So I made this map, just something to go by, and there are these two, I call them the massive walls as opposed to the single walls. They're two rows of big stones piled in with a lot of little stones. And it's not field clearing because there's still stones everywhere. But it turns out those two inner massive walls are both about 270 feet long, and they're oriented to 302 and 122, which if I had my little map or I had it on the back of my hand to show you, summer solstice sunset, winter solstice sunrise, which I will show you shortly. Then there are two outer walls, which I will get to in a moment, that have some very interesting things. There's a rock pile over at the end of one of these. It's about 183 feet long, about 25 feet high. And again, what farmer would, come on, boys, let's carry these rocks 20 feet up in the air to get them out of the way. So everything looks good on paper, but you need to get boots on the ground. You need to get to these locations. So a couple of years ago, here I am. I'm on one of those solstice walls, and the picture really doesn't do justice, but right before sunset, this beautiful orange glow comes right down the path. If you can see, it's a little washed out, but there's an orange glow that stretches along here. I get goosebumps every time I look at this. 1,000 people could have stood on this wall and watched summer solstice sunset. It's spectacular. So I have officially called it Sunset Boulevard. So the two of those walls. Now remember I had mentioned those outer walls. They are both oriented to 353 degrees and 173. I have spoken in front of big groups of astronomers, and we've all tried to figure this out. Some people think it's something to do with the Milky Way, all kinds of, and I'm like, well, is it just at this site? Or are there others? I found 5 sites in the Hudson Valley with 7 examples of 353 and 153. So I did a search, and the only other, this was weird, the only other place I could find a 353, 173 alignment is at Göbekli Tepe. And no, don't say Linda said Göbekli Tepe is the same. No, I don't think there's any connection with sites in the Hudson Valley and Göbekli Tepe. But what I'm saying is somebody saw something in the sky that made them want to build and orient to those. Does anybody know offhand? Do you know sites with this alignment? Some people have suggested magnetic. You know a site of this?
talked about in Ohio, with Milky pilgrimage.
Okay, that has been one of the suggestions. So perhaps that's it. It would be wonderful if it was.
Could you repeat what she said?
What was the name of the book?
Rediscovering Turtle Island by Taylor Keene.
Taylor Keene's Rediscovering Turtle Island.
Talks about the Milky Way pilgrimage sites, pilgrimages in Ohio.
Okay.
In sacred sites there.
Okay. So perhaps that's it, which again, I don't know that a farmer would say, hey, let's build a wall, several walls 270 feet long for these Milky Way pilgrimage. High Point, New Jersey is called High Point because it's the highest point in New Jersey. If you've ever gone out to Pennsylvania on Route 84, you see this tall obelisk here. It's a war memorial that was built in the 1930s. And I've heard from several sources that there was a rather spectacular stone site on the top of High Point, which was bulldozed to put in the war memorial. However, there are still sites in the High Point area just below this. I love this rock. Beautiful pointed rock. I mean, could they have chosen a better white quartz vein from the point coming down? Hope you can see that. Yes, you can still see that there. So Tom Brannan, who was a surveyor, and a historian, Andy Smith, in 1980, they got the idea that for this stone or all the stones, that if you stood behind these stones, there's for the 2 solstices and there's a stone for equinox, that the sun would come up. This is that monument. The sun would come up over the highest point, and you would line it up. Well, they had the right idea, they had the wrong alignment.
Tom is here with us today.
Tom Brannan, where are you, Tom Brannan? I don't see him. Oh, Tom, my hero. Thank you for the work you've done. Wow. It really, a lot of what I'm doing is because of you. So couldn't have done this without you. So they realized the real alignment on this great map here, which I will put up, that it actually, there's a depression, they call it like a saddle between these 2 mountains, and that's where it comes up. So I wanted to, as soon as I saw this, I wanted to go to a fall equinox, and it was sunrise, and it was a beautiful, perfectly clear night, 360-degree views until 10 minutes before sunrise. And that's where the sun's supposed to rise. The Delaware River's over there, and it tends to create fog and clouds. So I came up with Zimmermann's law of archaeoastronomy. The quality of the weather is inversely proportional to the importance of the viewing event. I'm sure we've all been there and done that. Mornings, sunrises, sunsets, you go all that way, and the fog rolls in, the clouds roll in, the rain. But finally, in 2023, there was this. Yeah, it's so, it just gives me chills and goosebumps. I always wonder who stood there and watched this, and what importance it was to them. So I never get tired of this. And again, photos don't do it justice. It's just this beautiful orange ball on that very point with the quartz.
It's amazing that stone survived, isn't that asphalt?
Oh, you're telling me, yes. That is Lake Marcy, I believe it's called, and it's a park, and the park put a road right next to it, so how it didn't get knocked over, I don't know. All right, Lake Tiarati. Fabulous map here. Tom, did you do this map too? Tiarati? Oh, okay. Yeah, 1980. Oh, well, I didn't show you the map yet, but there's this huge boulder up there perched. It's kind of arrowhead shaped. And this map, there's a lot of boulders and a lot of duplicate, there's an equinox alignment, and you go over there, and there's another equinox alignment, and there's another solstice. It's almost as if they were refining or redoing, or everybody wanted their own alignment. And I was looking at this, and I was putting my grid over it, and it again on paper, it really looked like the point of the boulder would point to winter solstice sunset. I was pretty convinced of it. So I think on the second or third winter solstice, we actually had clear weather. And again, here's the back of the boulder. Here you can see the front, how it's kind of triangular arrowhead shaped. And as the sun's beginning to set, I have my compasses and cameras, and it's like, I don't know, it doesn't. And I'm getting really upset because the point of the boulder was too far to the west. And then, of course, you start thinking, well, maybe it slid over the years or something. It's not going to work. So I turn my back, and I'm like arms crossed, and I'm a little grumpy at this point. And I'm like, I really thought it was going to be. And my husband, my ever patient husband, he's like, Linda, turn around. I'm like, why should I turn around? It's not going to align. I don't know why, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, just trust me, turn around. So I turn around and see this. There is a scooped out part on the back of that. Let me go back a few so you can see it. See the way it's clearly an indentation here, okay? And I didn't even think that would have anything. That's why you have to go to these sites and see for yourself, because you never know how it's going to be aligned. But that big, beautiful orange ball of a winter solstice sunset sat right in there. It was, excuse me?
Gunsight alignment.
A gunsight alignment, yes. It was perfect. And it's something, I've spoken a couple times to the park rangers for Lake Tiarati. This is in Hamilton State Park. And couple of them were saying, we've been hiking this our whole life. We never had any idea there were any kind of alignments. And it's a shame. How many people walk through the woods and say, okay, big rock, another big rock, and they don't get it. So he was, that next winter, he was going to go to experience it himself. So I looked off the map to see if there were any other potential alignments, and I saw a rock with kind of like a platform rock in front of it, very easy to step up onto. And I turned around and I saw there was a pointed rock in the distance, not too far, a couple of 100 feet, and my little compass and everything, and I realized it would most likely on paper be a equinox sunset alignment. So next equinox, I think it was a fall equinox, went up there, got on my little perch. I didn't want to, jinx it, right? So like I'm getting up and I'm going to just suddenly look, and if it aligns, great. If it doesn't, I was wrong. I think I was right. You can see that boulder in the background, again, comes to a nice point. And I don't think you can get a much nicer alignment than that. So, on the same vein where a lot of sites are considered to be farmers, clearing their field, and a lot of these random boulders, just happen to fall in that place and with no alignment. I think we can, say that these were purposely moved there. All right, my personal favorite site, I would live there if I could. This is in Sloatsburg in Rockland County. If you've ever gone on the New York State Thruway, you're coming south before you get to Rockland and New Jersey. There's some rest stops there. This site is on the hill above the rest stop. And the key thing, this was a map from 1845. And I don't know if you can read that small print, but the label of the map was diagram of supposed prehistoric walls on the right town field of Ramapo. In 1845, they considered these to be prehistoric walls. Okay, so I think it wasn't until 1975, Ed Lennox, he's not here, is he? No, okay. Ed Lennox and a team spent a couple of years mapping it out. And the most incredible things on these sites, this site, I think, see these circles with a line through it and numbers? Those are stone mounds. Some of between 20 and 60 feet in diameter, some of them 6 to 7 feet tall. They're fabulous. They're all over the slide. We'll be advanced to the next one so you can see. They're all around the site, and so I used my little grid and was looking for other things, and these two seem to be the center of the site, and they're exactly north-south. My little red lines I superimposed are all possible solstice and equinox alignments. There is a rock hill depression, they call it. It's a rock box in the ground, set into the ground. And I found that if you stand in that rock, it's the only one known on the site. This is about 22 acres. It's huge. If you stand in that rock box, there is a large boulder on a hill. And winter solstice sunrise will come down behind that rock while you're standing in that box. So I would imagine that box is for other observation sites as well. Okay, anybody have a Subaru? Okay, good. Do you know what that Subaru symbol is? Pleiades, right. So let me go back, because being the amateur astronomer and teacher that I was, I kept looking at this and I kept thinking, kind of looks familiar. So I thought of the Pleiades because that was extremely important to native cultures, because when you can see the Pleiades, it'll be too cold to plant. So once the Pleiades were out of sight, that was a good sign. So my husband and I have a lot of telescopes, and I said, take a picture of the Pleiades for me some night, and he did. So I superimposed the map over on them. That's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. So I suspect it's a Pleiades alignment.
No, they were. Right. They have proper motion.
I'm getting to that. So the Pleiades does not always come up the same place every year. I'm with you. So what I did with a astronomical program is there's one fireplace on this whole site. And it seems to be a place of significance. So where would the Pleiades rise in the year 2000, 1500, and 1000? And it looked like around the year 1000, it kind of cuts right through the site. 1500, it cuts right through that. So speculation needs a lot more work, but I suspect that it not only gives more weight to the idea that these are supposed to represent the Pleiades, but that the site was built between 500 and 1,000 years ago. It's a possibility. So, but there was more to be found here. Oh, so let me go back. So this red line here, as I said, it's a huge site. And just for my own purposes, I wanted to get an idea of distances between sites. You know, some of these sites you're practically within arm's reach. This is a huge site. And I calculated from the stone fireplace to what I consider the center of the site was 471 feet, which meant absolutely nothing to me. So then I said, well, for the heck of it, let me do from the stone fireplace to that first, what I call Pleiades mounds. And it came out 471 feet. I'm like, I must have used the same set of figures. My mistake. And I did it again. I'm like, no. So starting to get a little excited. Every one of these black lines is 471 feet from point to point. What a coincidence. And so then I went higher, I went lower, I went because 471 feet is not a practical unit of measurement to carry around a measuring device of that size. So these are fractions of it. And then I even doubled it. So it's like not a single feature on this site appears to be random. It's stunning. As I said, I could live on this site. And I'm trying to get like the local historian and other people interested to really do a modern study of this. And I haven't had any project. And the other thing is a lot of the local residents, this is in the park, but the local residents love driving their quads up and over walls and mounds, and which is highly illegal. I've reported it. They're like, we're not going to do anything about it. So it needs to be preserved. It needs to be studied, because I think it's quite possibly, I'm prejudiced, but I think it's the most remarkable site in the area. Oh, and even from end to end, the northernmost to the southernmost and the easternmost to the westernmost is about the same dimension. Yes.
Thing why you have to map out just for where the equals, when you were trying to parse out the angles with the Pleiades there, Pleiades, is that if whoever made that map may not have been a surveyor that knew that when they hold their compass in those days, that would go to magnetic north, not true north. So you may need to verify, is that true north or magnetic north?
Right. Like I said, one person with a garment, trying to figure this out, but I think this is compelling evidence to get more people to study it. So what I did for the Teeterati site and the Ramapo Wall site, I actually applied to the state of New York for a research permit, which I got. And I spent 2 years working on this project, produced a highly detailed 23-page illustrated report on astronomical alignments of possible Native American calendar ceremonial sites. And I submitted it. Maybe they lost my email. I haven't heard of it, which is a shame, but it's in the system somewhere. Somebody might accidentally look at it someday and do something about it. All right, I want to save a few minutes for questions, but we have there's a lot of things I have been looking for in the past, missing in archaeology. British geologist John Finch had written a book in the 1820s, I think it was, and he wrote that I have been informed by one Dr. E. James, the scientific tourist of the Rocky Mountains. They're talking about Stonehenge-like sites, that one is situated upon a high hill 1 mile from the town of Hudson, New York, and attracted his notice many years ago on account of the remarkable size of the stones and their position. So that's Columbia County. I contacted Columbia. They had never heard of this. They had no idea where one might be. And they finally came to the conclusion it probably used to stand, I hate using those words, on Mount Marino, which is outside Hudson. You can see there's some high tension wires there now. I think it's worth taking a look to see these things. They kind of look like big stones roll down the hill. I'm wondering if, the site was bulldozed for this. But if the stone still exists somewhere, at least we can say, yes, this was the site of it. Anybody have any knowledge of? Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, that site has been completely demolished. There's a very large mansion built on top of that hill now. But all around that area, there's been a lot of projectiles that's been found. There also, there's another hill just north of Hudson. This is just south of Hudson, just right across from where the Rip Van Winkle Bridge is. The next hill south of it is shoot, that big
Fire Mountain.
the big fancy mansion. Alana, thank you. Also totally re-landscaped, but beautiful sightlines from there. And then if you go 1 mile north of Hudson, you get to the Stockport Creek, Mountain Stockport Creek, and I was there and met some of the neighbors there, and a woman told me that they had the excavators when they were clearing the site from her house noticed that there were boulders that were interestingly arranged in a circle, and none of the boulders were from there. And she told me this a couple months after.
Tragic.
So those 6 songs.
Okay, so it will remain missing in archaeology. And one last thing Finch wrote about was a large semicircular boulder he felt was placed on the site, and that one man could rock this huge thing. He said even though 6 men with crowbars couldn't dislodge it. Why were they trying to? What is human nature? You see something, you want to knock it down. So I spent a lot of time, got a lot of help, and finally found out it still exists in somebody's backyard near Peekskill, New York. And I know it looks like I'm tree hugging a rock, but I am able to rock that rock just myself. You can see, looks like part of it has sheared off, but whether it's natural or not, I was just so happy that it does still exist. So if you keep at it and you get enough help, Maybe you can, you can find these things. I can't publish the person's address, and they were kind enough to let me run around their backyard and hug their rock. But these sites are historic treasures, and I'm preaching to the choir here. So let's hope more awareness will bring more preservation and more study. So I have a Facebook page that I post a lot of my adventures, and you can get in touch with me with any questions or comments. But I have a few minutes for if anyone has any questions. Yes. Thank you.
Have you ever, you gave a presentation here about 2 years ago on use of stellarium, with panoramic landscape, have you ever tried?
Yes, Stellarium is wonderful.
Have you put your own landscapes, your own landscape model?
No, I haven't.
Easy to talk on this. You can image a site like that, someplace you want to see, like, you can't see for the next 2 weeks.
Right.
But you can get any image any time of year. Get a star, transform folders here or there. You can construct a model in Solarium, so you can see that.
Oh, wow. It was worth the visit here today. Wow, thank you. Yes.
Together was the Pleiades, actually the stars themselves move relative to each other. They have proper motions. So if
Oh, I see what you mean.
Go back 5,000 years, the line up would be perfect.
Would be-
Or it could be worse, I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, that relative to each other. Okay, not to the time period. Yes, well, that's your homework assignment, so. And that's a great idea because, you're so tempted to let me tweak it a little.
But I think
But
Stellarium has that proper motion.
show the motion between them.
That
That would
notice Stellarium, it has Pleiades.
maybe pin it down even more. Excellent, thank you.
I'm thinking about the rock with the quartz lines coming up. So I imagine somebody finding that rock somewhere, back before it was set there, and then he or she got the tribe to work together to place it there.
Oh, that's what goes through my mind, like who moved it here and who stood behind it. Oh, yeah.
I want people to write historical novels about these things.
Yes.
You mentioned your baby shape and say having the same as
Some of those upright stones have the same alignment.
I have a theory that they were looking at it in a cookie way. Both of them.
Okay.
People who made those observations were part of the same astronomical tradition, even though they're separated by those many years.
Mm-hmm.
It indicated that the astronomical tradition they missed their own. This is carried by various individuals.
Okay, I will look into that for sure. Thank you. Yes.
I'm gonna apologize as I'm a computer scientist, but in your map of Ramapo, there's probably another, I would say 2 or 3 times as many points of possible interest that you didn't include on your map. And so something that I always, played with is I just took a random set of points, put them all down, and then, basically looked at all of the rays that possibly there are a lot of possible lines that could come from it.
Yes.
So again, it looks great, but again, there is that possibility of chance, particularly when you're collecting from so many. To go back to that, there's a number of other possible points to be put in there. So just throwing that out there.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I could have spent the whole time on that, but what I find the most fascinating is these lenticular shapes here. The 2 smaller ones are exactly each half the larger one. Their whole thing's oriented due, 0 degrees. And to me, it's the key to the site, like a key on a map. if you go to this site, you know the unit of measurement, you know the cardinal points. It's a very unusual, I don't know that I've seen shapes like this so much at a site before. So I think that's kind of the key to the site, but if you have other information, like I said, I'm one person with a garden. So, this site deserves teams of researchers. You know,
Yes. Touched on stellar alignments and how they can go time. My question is, solar alignments specifically referencing man-made structures like Stonehenge, New Grange, locally the stone chambers. Do those alignments change or are solar alignments constant over time?
solar alignments are not constant, but it's such a big ball of light that what I have been told is that unless the site is super ancient, you're still going to see, that's why New Grange still has an alignment, correct? Am I- Yes.
Is there any would go as to like 10,000 meters, 20,000?
I couldn't give you off
I
now.
know it's minimal, so it's like that.
One more question?
Well, accepting the fact that this is put together, the site, who put it together?
I would think the obvious choice are the Native Americans who lived there for 10,000 years. There was a lot of Native American artifacts found throughout this area.
We're talking Algonquin, I mean, specifically, you know?
I don't know. I don't know.
Have you talked to them?
I have talked to a couple, one had said, or actually through a friend, that when they grew up in this area, the elders told them, you do not hunt on this land because there's something special about it. So, however ancient a tradition, they still thought this was special. Thank you very much.